Well, y'all, we're finally back. Wood Talk Sports here with another mock draft. It's been a while since I've said that, but we're starting the mock drafts earlier this year. 2025 NFL draft. I've been doing some better research into, but compared to 2024. I didn't start doing research until about December, January, and obviously it's October, and I'm doing it on the 2025 draft. I thought we'd start and get a couple more in this year. We got 11 in, 10, and then a draft day one for any shakeups. But we're going to start with 1.0 today, and then we'll kind of periodically put them out, not every week, starting right now, probably about every other week for a draft. And then once we get towards that draft time, towards the senior day and pro days and the drafts, combine, of course, and a Super Bowl, we'll get into doing it on a weekly basis. But before we get started, I want to mention if you're liking my videos and you are not subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Let me know what you think of the videos, and like the videos. I would appreciate it if you do enjoy them. And I'd love to see more subscribers. Want to hit 200. Hoping to hit at least 200 by the end of the year. 250 would be awesome. But with that being said, we might as well just hop into it right now. We've got our draft board up here, obviously starting with the Patriots. And the Patriots could go a lot of ways. I think the Patriots are a team that could very possibly trade back in mock draft 1.0. As you guys don't know from last year, we don't do any trades in the first mock draft. Just keep it straight and simple. Obviously, it's going to be very hard for a draft to not have any trades, but we will go no trades here. And starting off, I think the Patriots go with a guy that they fills two roles that they really needed, which is corner and wide receiver. He is one of the best players in college football alongside running back Ashton Jeanty. It's Travis Hunter. So Travis Hunter, I do think, might have to limit his two-way role in the NFL. I don't know if he'll transition as well. I think he's going to be a great player in the NFL. I think he'll be able to do so. I just don't think he'll be able to do it at the pace that he does it in college. I mean, it's just a lot different. It's a lot more physical. I think he's a fantastic player, though. He's a great receiver. He's a great corner. He deserves to be the number one pick if the Patriots are at number one, which they are projected to do so. Now, for Carolina at number two, this team has been very intriguing to me. I think they can go a lot of ways. I think they can go that wide receiver route. Tetairoa McMillan is one of the best receiving prospects that I've really enjoyed, especially this year. I really want the Saints to get him. As being a Saints fan. Luther Burden's a good wide receiver prospect. I don't think he's a number 2 overall pick prospect. Then you've also got guys in the quarterback position, like Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. These three guys, I think, are going to possibly all go in the top 10. I think guys like Carson Beck, if he can pick it back up. Quinn Ewers could get in the first round. Maybe Nussmeier even get into that first round. But will Nussmeier get in the first round? I don't think so as of right now. He's going to have to keep improving. Obviously, the big win against Ole Miss, but he did throw for under 50%. Completion percentage, 22 for 51. That's not something I want out of my first-round quarterback, to be throwing under 50% in a big game. So, despite the win. Number 2 to the Panthers, I've got a little thing here that we're gonna do. I think they get rid of I think they get rid of Bryce Young. Obviously, I'm not going to do this trade full on, but Bryce Young, blah, 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 see you later. Bryce Young will get traded, whether it's draft day or not on draft day. Goes to a different team. I would love to see him go to Miami. This is where I think he could possibly go. So let's just do Miami. I'm not going to really go into what the trade would be like, but I think you would have to give him a third, at least a third. For Bryce Young. So let's just go Bryce Young to Miami. So Bryce Young gets traded to Miami, hypothetically, to back up to Tagovailoa, just in case those injuries still linger. And Miami does kind of need a quarterback. So for those injury concerns, I think Bryce Young would be great for Miami. Trade him to Miami. Now that all of a sudden, boom, you need a quarterback. That's when you go and get Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders is my number 1 quarterback in this draft class. And that's because when you look at their draft, and you look at the quarterbacks, there's pretty good quarterbacks in this draft class. I don't think it's as strong as last year's draft class. Obviously, 1, 2, and 3 were all quarterbacks, and then number 10 with J.J. McCarthy was also off the board. I think the flaws of these quarterbacks are a lot more visible. I think Shedeur Sanders, the biggest negative quality he has as a quarterback is his off-field issues, his attitude. I don't think he's got the big glaring issue compared to Cam Ward, whose decision-making hasn't been great, and he's fumbled almost 50 times going into the season. I don't know how many fumbles he has this year. I haven't exactly, but he had about 46 fumbles before going to Miami. And then some of the decision-making he makes is not the greatest. I'm not saying that's going to take him away from being a good quarterback. He's still Heisman candidate right now, and he's going to probably be a top 10 pick. And then Jalen Milroe, he's a beautiful deep ball. He's got a wonderful deep ball, but he just kind of avoids throwing across the middle. And that's kind of what we saw with a guy like Anthony Richardson. Richardson would tend to try and avoid the middle and avoid those short dump-off passes because for some reason he doesn't always like throwing it towards those contested linebacker areas, and he can be inaccurate at sometimes. I think Milroe's not on the same level as Richardson when it comes to the inaccuracy. I think Milroe can still throw it. He's just shown tendencies of shying away from the middle. So Shedeur Sanders, I think, has been the best pro-ready quarterback in this draft. He's been fantastic for Colorado. I mean, and as much as people can hate Colorado and hate on him, you got to give him and Travis Hunter their flowers because those two players are two of the best prospects in this draft. And if teammates could go 1 and 2 overall, that's very impressive. So then we're going to go to number 3 with Cleveland. Cleveland, I think, can go 2 ways here. They could obviously go quarterback, but they could also go tackle. I think with Jedrick Wills, he is going to be he's on a contract year. He could be entering free agency, not coming back to the team. And in this case scenario, it's mock draft 1.0. We're going to go and get them a tackle. And the tackle I'm going with is Kelvin Banks Jr. I think he fits better. You've got DeJuan Jones on the right side. But yeah, you've got DeJuan Jones on the right side. Kelvin Banks Jr. you could put on that left side. Obviously, that would be pretty beneficial for the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, I get it. Quarterback is a very big position need. Jalen Milroe, Cam Ward. But I'm going to go with tackle here and then move on to number 4 with the Titans. Now, listen, Titans fans. Everybody wants Will Levis to be the guy. Will Levis isn't the guy. This is where Cam Ward goes. Cam Ward goes to the Titans. They need to do this. I could also see them going wide receiver. They just traded away D-Hop to the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'm going to go quarterback. I think you can. It's kind of same case scenario that the Giants are in right now. You just got Malik Nabers, but you got Daniel Jones thrown to him. He hasn't been terrible. But Daniel Jones is not good. He's not good. So I think you need to get the quarterback first. And then maybe later in the draft, you could also get a guy like Alec Minor, maybe Kobe Hudson, maybe get Trey Harris. He's doing fantastic this season. But moving on, we're going to go to the Jets here. First fully defensive player, because obviously Travis Hunter plays defense, but he's two-way. Mason Graham to the Jets. This says that they need a wide receiver. Obviously, they just got Devontae. They've got Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Malachi Corley. I don't know how many more wide receivers you need in a roster that I think can be promising. So you fix on that defense, the defensive interior. Mason Graham is unstoppable. He's he's a fantastic defensive interior prospect, and I don't see them passing up on a guy like Mason Graham at all. So now at number 6 to the Saints. The Saints could go 2 ways here as well. As I said, I'd love to get Teteroa McMillan to this team. I think having another threat in the receiving core would be beneficial. But I also think Will Campbell could be beneficial. Will Campbell or Cameron Williams. Getting a guy to replace Trevor Penning on that right tackle spot, even though Penning has improved this year and has shown signs of being a good player, you could always, with Ryan Ramczyk probably never playing football again for the New Orleans Saints, you could also go with a tackle. Maybe move Penning to the guard, see how he plays at guard. But they've got bigger problems like injuries. I think that's where Teteroa McMillan comes into play. You get yourself an absolute stud at wide receiver in New Orleans. You've just built an absolute fantastic wide receiver core with Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and now Tetairoa McMillan. And that's a match made in heaven for any quarterback. So we got McMillan to the Saints. Now, number 7 for the Jaguars, I think the biggest position in need for them is corner, and that's where Will Johnson comes off the board. Will Johnson is, he's one of the best players in college football. There's a reason he's one of the highest rated players in the video game as well, because he is a fantastic player. He was great for Michigan last year, too, in that national championship run. And I as much as I'd love to see somehow, some way the Commanders try and get him, and him and Mikey Sainristil come back as teammates, Will Johnson's too good of a prospect to drop. So he's gonna be the first corner, true corner, only corner. I know Travis Hunter, corner receiver. I'm talking only corner. Will Johnson, number 7 to the Jaguars. Now, number 8 to the Raiders. This is where I think another quarterback goes off the board. This team, really, watching them this year, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, neither of them look good at all. So I think Jalen Milroe goes to Las Vegas. I think they fix that quarterback situation. Now, if they can get a quarterback in the free agency period, I haven't looked fully into who's a free agent this offseason. Maybe they do that, and then who knows, maybe they go and get a guy like Ashton Jeanty, and they say, hey, our running back core has been horrendous. Let's go get Ashton Jeanty at 8th overall. I don't think it's going to happen, but if there's any running back that's going to get picked this high, it would be Ashton Jeanty. So I'm going to go Milroe. As I said, his deep ball is great. He needs to start throwing into the middle a little bit more, but I think he's going to be a great prospect. I think the ideal fit for the Raiders is Shedeur Sanders. Put a guy like that in Las Vegas. Not only does that sell tickets, but that improves your team with Shedeur. But obviously not here. We're going to go Jalen Milroe since he's available. Now, number 9 of the Giants. The Giants are in a bad spot now. I was thinking maybe quarterback. I'm not high on Quinn Ewers. I'm not going to go and put Quinn Ewers in the first round. I'm not going to go and put Carson Beck in the first round right now. I'm not going to go put Garrett Nussmeier either. That's where they need to improve on offensive line. And you look at guys like Evan Neal. Evan Neal is horrendous. So you got Andrew Thomas. You go and get another guy like Will Campbell, who is a fantastic tackle, who I think could even go as early as top 5 with Kelvin Banks. And a team like, the Patriots, if they don't end up with the first overall pick, could go with Will Campbell, Kelvin Banks, maybe even Cameron Williams from Texas, because he's an absolute physical specimen. But that's where I'm going to go for the Giants is Will Campbell. Now at number 10 to the Dolphins, we just traded them Bryce Young. The Dolphins are an interesting spot for me. They went Chop Robinson last year. It says their needs is line and quarterback. They could go an offensive lineman here, but I truly think that they will kind of lean towards the safety route. And at the safety, Malachi Starks. I think he's fantastic. And, you got Javon Holland, but then your other safety is Jordan Poyer, and Jordan Poyer is aging. Starks is a guy that, I know he's the safety. It's hard to put a safety in the top 10. I think he's a guy that you can put in the top 10. He is such a good player. He's got an elite skill set. He's gonna be fantastic in the NFL, and that's why I think putting him up with Javon Holland as well, that safety duo would be fantastic in Miami. So there you go. We got Malachi Starks. Now, first pick out of the top 10, we've got the Rams. Now, the Rams, what are the Rams going to do? The Rams are 100% going tackle in this situation. They could very well go Benjamin Morrison. I think that's tight end. They could go. They're going to go tackle here. Cameron Williams, Ariante Ursary, Josh Simmons, Emory Jones Jr., Jonah Savainea. I haven't really been able to fully know how to say his name. Cameron Williams, I think, is fantastic. But Ariante Ursary is also fantastic. I think out of any player they go here, it would be Cameron Williams. I know he's more of a developmental type of guy, kind of like an Amarius Mims or DeJuan Jones. But I'm going to go Cameron Williams. So I think he's great. I think he's going to be a good tackle in the NFL. He's got the size for it. He can move at his size. So I'm going to go with Cameron Williams, 11 to the Rams. Now at number 12 for the Cardinals, they drafted obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. and Darius Robinson. I could still see them going with another another edge rusher. Obviously, there's some pretty good edge rushers: Nick Skirton, Abdul Carter, Michael Williams, and James Pierce Jr. To name a few. Those are some of my favorite edge rushers in this year's draft. But then you also go look at their interior, and there's a guy named Kenneth Grant that's just staring at me right now, and I think that's a great pick for Arizona. Kenneth Grant to Arizona, just beef up that interior line. You just went with an edge rusher. If you're already going to give up on him, I mean, Darius Robinson is a big guy. He could try and play not like a defensive tackle but like a three, like a three, play at that three gap, or that three technique. But I don't know. I just think you could go with a guy, Kenneth Grant, beef up the interior. So 13 now to the Bengals. Earlier I thought Ashton Jeanty might go to the Bengals, but Chase Brown's looked fantastic. I think the Chase Brown, Zach Moss committee is great. Personally, if I'm a team, I'm going with Ashton Jeanty regardless because he's a generational athlete, a generational talent. But here is where I go edge rusher. I think they could really use an edge rusher. And the edge rusher that I will go with, Nick Skirton, Abdul Carter, James Pierce Jr., I'm going to go with Abdul Carter. I think Abdul Carter is the best edge rusher. You look at Penn State games, what do teams do against Penn State? They always do their best to limit Abdul Carter. And yeah, you can say that about every other edge prospect, like Nick Skirton, like James Pierce Jr. Abdul Carter is a special player. He's a special player. He makes effects on the quarterback. He does things to the other quarterback without even having to make a sack. He's absolutely speedy, just like a guy we just saw come out of Penn State in Chop Robinson. And he is so good at getting around that corner, getting around a tackle. He's fantastic at it. So I think you go with Abdul Carter here. For the Niners now, the Niners could really improve on that offensive line. The offensive line isn't the greatest, but you could also go on the defensive line. I think the edge rushers obviously are good. They've dealing with a lot of injuries. I think this could be a very depth play. I don't think they're going to be at this spot when it comes to the draft time. I don't think they're going to be 14th. They're obviously 3-4 right now. I don't think they'll stay at 3-4. And with that, I think they go interior D-line. I think Tyleik Williams is a great player. He's projected second round here in this mock draft, but I don't think that's where he'll go. I think he's a first-round talent player. Tyleik Williams to the Niners. Just kind of beefing up that defensive line and keeping with that depth. And it could possibly help with, the future with Nick Bosa and everything, just having another guy in Tyleik. So now 15 to the Dallas Cowboys. I think this is a pretty obvious one. Ashton Jeanty, that rushing offense is horrendous in Dallas. It is absolutely terrible. You need a running back. And, what better story than to bring the hometown kid home? Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys would be an absolutely fantastic thing to see. I would love to watch it. He is an absolute generational running back. He is going to be... It's perfect. It's perfect. He's going to be fantastic in the NFL. He's perfect to go first round. You get that fifth-year option. He is... What's he? How old is he? Like 20? He's like 20, 21. You get him for those prime years of a running back. You get that fifth-year option, and then you can continue on if you want to keep him and everything. And, I mean, the Cowboys just need it. And Jerry Jones can say whatever he wants. The Cowboys need a running back. So now at 16 to the Broncos. The Broncos, I think, 100% go wide receiver. And that wide receiver is Luther Burden. I think the fact that he drops to 16 is great for the Broncos. I think he could also go to the Bengals at 13 here. Luther Burden, man, I mean, he not doing as much as I expected him to do this year. However, he's a fantastic player. I mean, we saw what he did last year. We're seeing what he's still doing this year. I mean, don't get me wrong. Missouri still looks like a pretty good team. Luther Burden's a good guy. He's going to perform. And giving Bo Nix a weapon like Luther Burden would be great. It would be a necessity, in my opinion, for a team like the Broncos. So now At 17 to the Falcons. I don't like the Falcons, so honestly, I hope they have to like void this pick somehow because I would love to see that. But I'm gonna go Nick Scorton. I think you get a guy off that edge. Nick Scorton's a good rush defender as well. You get a you've got a very good pass coverage team in Atlanta. Their secondary is great. I think their secondary's got a lot of great names in that. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, AJ Terrell. You get an edge rusher who can not only pass, but he can defend the run. And that's a big thing, is if you already have a good secondary, if you can get an edge rusher that can help you defend the run excellently, then a team has to resort to the pass. And then guess what? He's also good at pass rush. And then that secondary is going to cause some interceptions, cause some plays. So I think he just fits well in the Atlanta scheme and what they're building out there, in Atlanta with Raheem Morris. So we're going to go Nick Scorton 17. Now 18 to the Eagles. I think we go edge rusher again. And this time, we're going to stick with the Georgia guys, Mykel Williams to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's a great player. I think he's somebody that will really help. Obviously, they love their Georgia guys. So I don't got much to say about Mykel Williams except the Eagles could really use an edge rusher. They got Nolan Smith Jr., they got Jalen Carter on the line. You've also got, what's his name, Jordan Davis on the line. But getting another edge rusher, you could have a full Georgia D-line. But Mykel Williams, edge rusher to the Eagles. 19 now to the Seahawks. I'm kind of torn. I've honestly looked at Kevin Winston in a way and been like, maybe. I could also see a guy like Emory Jones. I'm so sorry about that. Emory Jones could move down to guard. And what's their biggest position need? It's offensive guard in my opinion. So I'm going to go Emory Jones. Emory Jones goes to the Seattle Seahawks. I could also see Emory Jones possibly going top 10. I think the Dolphins could use a guy like him who could maybe move down to guard. And that's solely what I'm doing here with the number 19 pick. Emory Jones, I think, could possibly move to guard. So having him start at tackle, possibly moving down to guard, is a great fit for Emory Jones and great for Seattle. And he's a great blocker. I mean, both those guys out of Texas and both those guys out of LSU, I think both of their tackles will get drafted first round. All right, now we're going to the next pick. Man, this position, I got a battle right here for number 20. I'm going corner. Benjamin Morrison, Savone Ravel. I absolutely love Savone Ravel. I think he's going to be the Quinyon Mitchell of this draft. I think he's that group of 5 player. I know he tore his ACL in September, and it sucks to see him not get to play this year, but he's fantastic. He's just he's the definition of a lockdown corner in my opinion. He's so long, he's lengthy, and he's got range, So, but Benjamin Morrison is also just a phenomenal corner. But I'm going to lean towards Savone Ravel. And, I watched a little bit more of East Carolina last year because I did my college football first dynasty with East Carolina. I wanted to get more familiar with the players. But I think he's fantastic. Great athlete at corner. He'll slot in. I think even with the ACL injury, he'll be able to come back strong and really perform for the Indianapolis Colts. So now moving on to 21 for the Chargers. Chargers, I think, take a tight end here. I think they go with Colston Loveland. I think Loveland is a phenomenal player. He's out of Gooding, Idaho, really small city from from the state of Idaho. And I mean, I never personally, because I'm around the same age as him, I know a lot of people that know him. I never got to watch him in high school. But watching him at Michigan, oh my goodness, man, he took over freshman year. There were some injuries freshman year against TCU in the semifinal. That whole year, he got to do a lot. And then last year, even too, national championship squad. And then this year, he's the best pass catcher on that Michigan team. And obviously, the quarterback situation hasn't been great for him, but he is a phenomenal player. He's an absolute phenomenal player. I can't see the Chargers, who need a pass catcher, putting a guy like him with Justin Herbert. Oh my goodness, that'd be fantastic. That'd be a match made in heaven for Herbert. So I was kind of saying the same with Neighbors and Brock Bowers last year. I think Loveland also fits into that category. I think Bowers obviously is much better prospect. Bowers was one of the best tight end prospects of all time. I'm not saying Loveland isn't, but he is an absolute stud, and I think it's only right for the Chargers to go and get a tight end like Colston Loveland, who can honestly he can block too. He's a great block. He's a pretty good blocker too. So now at 22, this is a future pick for the Buccaneers. You got to look towards those injuries. You know, Chris Godwin just went down. Mike Evans just went down. They're both getting towards that age. I think Isaiah Bond is what needs to happen. I know they went with Jalen McMillan last year, but what happens if one of those guys gets hurt again? You've just got Jalen McMillan and Cade Otton catching your passes. Isaiah, why not just go get another wide receiver? Build up that wide receiver depth with Isaiah Bond, who personally I think he might have been he might be a little overhyped. I kind of got a grudge against Texas. I'm not a very big Texas guy. I still think he's a first round talent, but I don't think you really heard his name too often last year at Alabama. Yeah, he was pretty good at Alabama, but I think the 4th and 31 was really what put his name out there a ton. I wasn't always hearing about him that much, and then when that happened, I started hearing about him a lot. So, great player regardless. I'm not saying he's not good, but he's first round talent. I think he's a good place to put him in is Tampa, with Baker, and there you go. He's slotted there. So now for the Bears at 23, I think the Bears go with a tackle here. I think it's Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. I haven't been able to watch too much about him, but I think that from what I've looked at and what I've read and what I've seen is he could be a very, very good player in the NFL. I mean, protecting Caleb Williams is your number one priority, and that's what they need to. It's what they need to build on. Let's be real. I mean, that's their number one concern as of right now. So, Ariante Ursary goes 23 to the Bears. Now 24 to the Baltimore Ravens. I think they could go multiple ways here. I think personally they'll probably go a defensive back. They could go Benjamin Morrison, another defensive back that I think is being really underrated on this radar. Where is he? He's from South Carolina. I don't even see him on here, man. Where is he at? Is he rated as a safety? Oh yeah, It's Nick Emenwari. He's great. I think he is a safety. He's a corner in a safety's body, and I think that's something that the Ravens could really benefit on. But for now, I'm going to say they could also really benefit on getting another corner. And Benjamin Morrison is kind of hard to pass up on. So, as I said, Nick Emenwari is a great player. I think he could go here to Baltimore. I also think he could go to Buffalo. Obviously, they cleaned house in line with their team. I really like their guys. Taylor Rapp was great on Monday against the Jets. Not this Monday, but was it this Monday? No, it was 2 Mondays ago. Right? Yeah, it was 2 Mondays ago. But they could also go safety. Another team that could go safety is maybe even the Commanders. Now at 25 to the Bills. I think the Bills, you just drafted Keon Coleman. You got Khalil Shakir. You've got Curtis Samuel. You could really still go wide receiver here. You've got a guy like Emeka Egbuka, Alec Iomaner. But then you also could go D-line. You could go D-line. You've got guys like Deion Walker that I really enjoy watching. You got Derek Harmon. You've got Dante Corleone. You've got edge rushers, too. You look at the edge rushers. Still James Pierce Jr. is on the board, And another guy who's an interior D lineman that I think is kind of underrated on here is... Where is he at, man? Walter Nolan. Walter Nolan, I think, is very underrated on here. But for the Bills here, I think they go wide receiver. Just buffing up that wide receiver core. I know you just got Amari Cooper as well, but... who knows, man? You maybe take a shot at Emeka Egbuka. You maybe take a shot. He's a great player, man. And, a lot of people might say this is not a very good pick. Maybe go defense. But for the sake of it, we're going to go wide receiver, Emeka Egbuka. Why not just go do it 2 years in a row, Teams have done it before. Kevin Winston Jr., as I said, Emenwari could also go here. But then that's where I got Emenwari going next. Emanwari, I'm going to be going to the Commanders. I think he's fantastic. You'll see him rise up on draft boards as the season goes on. He's fantastic. He's a fantastic player. Now, 27 to the Steelers. Man, this team as well also needs wide receiver. I think Ibuka could also go here. I'm going to go personally with wide receiver. I think that's their biggest position. Isle Manor is going to go at 27 to the Steelers. He's fantastic. I remember that game against Colorado last year. Oh my gosh, man, I will never forget that. Anyways, 28 to the Packers. You could go Jonah Saivanea, Josh Simmons. You could also go interior. You could go edge. And what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna, you gotta weigh your options. You gotta weigh some of the options. But I'm gonna go with the D line here. I'm gonna go with D line. That's offensive line. My bad. Interior defensive line. I really like Deion Walker. I think Deion Walker will be, just Kenny Clark. Getting somebody with Kenny Clark would be great, and Deion Walker would be a good fit for them. So I think in some of my mock drafts, I had them going D-line last year, but they obviously went Jordan Morgan, who they've moved to guard, who played tackle at Arizona. So we go Deion Walker here. 29 to the Texans now. Now the Texans, I think, could go different routes. I think offensive line is probably their biggest need. I would have liked to go Ursary if he's still here, but he's not here. And so that makes me look at the offensive tackles. What offensive tackle do I think could move to the guard? And I think Jonas Savanaia could honestly move to guard. He's pretty big, but maybe draft him, move someone else to guard. I don't know. I think offensive line could be a great spot for him. And then also, you could, not Danny Stutzman. He's a really good player, but I don't know if he'll be a first-round talent. You could go with another position like in the secondary or an edge rusher. But for this one, I'm going to go Jonah. I also would really like him to go to Minnesota because I think he can kick inside. But for this case, we're going to go Jonah Savaiinaea to the Texans. Now for the Vikings, we're gonna go with a secondary player here. You look at it, Denzel Burke played awful against Oregon. I'm not really gonna go him. We're gonna go Kevin Winston Jr. Harrison Smith only gets older and older and older. You got to find a way to have a backup plan. So I think Kevin Winston Jr. fits perfectly for that. 31 now. I think James Pierce Jr., this is the steal of the first round here, going 31st overall to the Lions. No way the Lions get away with James Pierce Jr., right? Well, in this situation, they do. So he's a great player, absolute freak of an athlete. I think he's fantastic, and I love watching Tennessee games with him, especially last year. Obviously, he hasn't done as much this season, but that doesn't take away from what he does usually. So I'm going to go James Pierce Jr., 31st to the Lions, and then to finish it off, for the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you've got Kareem Hunt, you've got Isaiah Pacheco. They say halfback's a need. I don't think it's a need. You got Isaiah Pacheco, you've got all those guys and everything. You could maybe go Quinn Schott. I think Omarion Hampton would be the other running back to go in the first round. I don't think it's going to happen, though. But in this situation, I think you just go best player available for one of your bigger needs, which I think still is tackle. And I think you just go and get yourself Josh Simmons. Just wrap up the round with Josh Simmons, get yourself a tackle. So they did get, who was it Kingsley Suamataia or was it, or it was either Kieran or him. It was the Yale or BYU guy. I can't think of it. But I think you just go Josh Simmons, get a positional need type of guy. So yeah, there's my first round mock draft 1.0. Obviously, I'm still in the works of researching and everything. So let me know what you think. And any feedback is encouraged. As we go on, I said we'll get better. Do more research. I'm still trying to learn a little bit more on that second half. Those last 15, 20, 10 picks. Once I get to about 18, 19, 20. Past Colston Loveland, Isaiah Bond, that's where I start to like, I'm trying to get to know these guys a little bit more. So I just wanted to get my first not blind reaction, but kind of throw it out there. Mock Draft 1.0. It's a 1.0 for a reason. But with that being said, hope y'all enjoyed. Once again, like the video if you did. Subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed. And we'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out.